I'm going to talk to you about the markings on the needle plate today, which are really useful in trying to keep regular seam allowances and straight lines when we're sewing, because it gives us something to line up against. So you can see some numbers here on the plastic part of the bobbin case, and you've also got some on this machine etched into the metal part of the needle plate. And they all relate to the distance that line is away from the needle when the needle's in its central position. So here you've got 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, and these are eighths of an inch. And then underneath you've got that 10, which is a centimetre, 10 mils, and then you can work out the increments in between. So that's 0 in the centre, then that one would be 1/2 centimetre, 1.5 centimetres, and so on. So this is really useful when we want to sew a regular seam. So I'm going to sew these two pieces of fabric together using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, which basically means that I need to line up these two raw edges of the fabric with the 5/8 line, so I can just see it. I'm going to lower my press foot, and now it's in position. And then all I need to do is basically, as I sew my seam, keep these raw edges in line with that line the whole way down, and I will get a nice straight line of stitching. And what happens is sometimes, particularly if it's slippy fabric, it will want to go one way or the other. So your job is to manipulate the fabric, keep it in place so that it's in line, and you can see that 5/8 the whole way down. So that is basically a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance here. Show you that. So that means that that distance there between the seam and the raw edges is 5/8 of an inch. If you don't have these numbers on the machine, then what you can do is measure the distance yourself, and you can use some masking tape. So I've got a gauge here, so I'm going to set it at 1.5 centimetres. So all you would do is just position the measure at the centre, and then you can use masking tape or washi tape, and you would just make a marker with your finger, and then you can use masking tape, as I say, to pop it on your machine. And then you've got the line, if those numbers weren't there, you've got the line of the masking tape to follow. And that works if, for example, you needed to use a 2 centimetre seam allowance, which hasn't, well, it's got the mark up there, but it hasn't got the mark down here, or a 3 centimetre. All you would do is just measure across. You can do this with a normal tape measure as well. Just measure across from the centre of the press foot where the needle is, okay? And then you would just make a mark with your finger, and then pop your masking tape or washi tape in place, and then you can keep a nice regular seam allowance.